don't want turn-based games anymore and are increasingly uninterested in RPGs. That is the feeling Naoki Yoshida expressed when considering his design decisions. With the divisive response to Final Fantasy XVI's action combat, designed by Spectacle Fighter veteran Ryota Suzuki, as well as the initial backlash to Yakuza Like a Dragon swapping to turn-based combat after a long line of action street brawling, a few valiant studios present us with an experimental middle ground and ask the question, can we have our cake and eat it? And is the cake actually just 80% treacherous fondant? Pretty, but really bland and quite messy once you've picked it all off. Before this analogy gets any further away from me, here's a pre-release preview of my time with Clair Obscur Expedition 33. Once a year, a godlike entity known as the Patress will paint a number in the sky, and every human of that age will peel apart and vanish. Every year the numbers decrease, threatening all of humanity. Their only hopeless hope is to send expeditions to the continent, to find and put an end to the Paintress for the ones who came before, for the ones who come after. If you're an insufferable know-it-all like me, you may recognize Clair Obscur from art history, and it may sound more thematic to you that our antagonist is referred to as the Paintress. If not, well, the more you know. And you're welcome. Actually, more on that later. Anyway, Jennifer English is joined by a myriad of prestigious co-stars, including Charlie Cox and Andy Serkis. There's such an awesome surprise of names lending their talents to bring these characters to life with their best French accents for their best French swearing. Every few years, I feel like we're treated to a game set in France that's not during one of the world wars. Good times all around, from the Neo-Paris of Remember Me, the Ratnados of A Plague Tale Innocence, Marie Antoinette and her spam bots from Steel Rising, and now the world of Clair Obscur gives us a dark fairy tale look at late 1800s magic wasteland, which works its fantastical elements to still be so gleefully French. I need to be clear to you that as much as I'll poke fun at it, I love it, especially when the actual studio is French and playfully representing their own culture. Outside of just being French, Sandfall Interactive is a small video game studio formed in 2020, published by Kepler Interactive. Expedition 33 will be their first game, so it really is stunning to see how it's so incredibly full of promise. This is obviously the power of having a wellness dog. Sometimes I just don't feel like you want the best for me. One thing about me is I loved RPGs, not as some kind of flex. This is still a lot of hours of me sat like a prawn stabbing plastic with my thumbs. But at this point, I've played a good amount of the classics that make up the category, so for me, it really is a treat to see how the systems that Sandfall have magpied together have been remixed and retuned to make the combat of Expedition 33 feel so familiar but fresh. I don't mean to sound like some kind of snob, like, look how many video games I've played. If you're here, I'm pretty sure we all play video games, but I just wanted to get this out of my system because I just wanted to get across how much I love that the game has been made by people who clearly love the genre and that I'm excited for that. All party skills are managed by a simple system of AP, and we are so back with elemental weaknesses, flying enemy weaknesses, status effects with buffs and debuffs, passive weapon effects, and crafting your own clever feeling combos whilst diving, dodging, defending in a cinematic rush against your opponents. And if all that sounds actually really freaking overwhelming, oh my god, I get you. I got big tutorial stress when these were introduced to me for the first time. Surely a bunch of these weren't actually going to stay relevant enough to remember. But also, oh no, these parries are rough. Should I turn Expeditioner difficulty down to story? Actually, no. I'm delighted to say I found that the pacing of all these mechanics has the right intensity that I already find the majority of timed actions feel quite instinctual right now. I think the only thing that I regularly forgot at the start was the out-of-combat free aim for the party's infinite pistol type weapons. Hitting that perfect on the skill QTEs gave me a similar sense of satisfaction as Legend of Dragoon or Shadowheart's Judgment Ring system, which I know plenty of fools called crusty gimmicks even when they came out, but learning the timings for each ability, some being easier and some being lightning fast, is extremely worthwhile. There is a feature under accessibility which automates QTEs for your skills if they are something you're not able to do for yourself. However, you must still execute dodge and parry timings to achieve victory. And the window for these on lower settings is much longer, which gives you the best chance at success. The preview also includes some optional side challenges to give you some fun rewards, along with what feels at this stage of the game like super bosses. The mime boss is terrifying when you first approach them, with eerie laughter echoing through the area as they chase you. And at this stage, it feels like it would take a dedicated player a long time to optimally be able to take them down. However, returning later with your fully leveled party is so rewarding. Since for all the brutality and violence in the story, the game's approach is so far from grimdark. It uses its artistic influences and the whimsy remembered in many people's favorite RPGs and keeps this experience vibrant through more than just blue trees and steampunky accessories. Anyway, upon taking down this fearsome foe, the mime rewards you with an incredible upgrade for Gustav. A beret and a stripy shirt, complete with a baguette holstered on his back. There is a second mime later on which I found, which gave a short haircut to Mael. I liked her OG ponytail best, so I kept her with that. But hopefully this is foreshadowing for further mime-based foes, and we can get Gustav another baguette to wield in his sword hand. As for other more challenging fights, if you stray from the beaten path, you'll be able to take on stronger foes that have different mechanics, requiring you to adapt the way you operate your party members. How will you fight when you can't gain AP? Or if your strongest party member gets swallowed? There is also a side cave which you find off the main map, which contains a mysterious pink shepherd, who is the hardest challenge I found, requiring mastery of dodging even to survive. I dare not even attempt to parry him, lest I wipe and have to start this long fight again from the beginning. But this fight to me highlights the full title will provide ample challenge for anyone wanting to really master the mechanics and take down powerful creatures across the continent. But because I leveled my party and took on what were obviously the hardest bosses the preview provided, I can tell you that Clair Obscur is not immune to the monotony of the grind TM. Personally, I think I found it more so due to the generally well done but still intensive mix of QTE and turn-based, since I found myself feeling more irritated than challenged with every missed dodge and parry from cockiness. And this was especially true with the super boss fights. Only time will tell overall if the game overstays its welcome in this regard. I deeply hope it will streamline its strengths into a neat package that leans on the more concise side of the how long to beat. You know, 26 hours or so for the main game, maybe 34 for the main game plus extras. As for my notes on traversal, never thought I'd be putting huge thought into talking about traveling across the world, but being able to fall off the ledges is so nice for the sense of freedom in areas which I can already tell will be called out negatively for their layout of linear progression. I just know there's a history of it. This totally isn't a criticism from me, by the way. I don't vibe with a need for everything to be open world, and I find that even just the freedom to fast travel between resting points in these areas is enough to stop me feeling like the last bit of toothpaste being squeezed from the tube. Especially when I am zooming along after choosing Lune to be the on-screen character, because it's unfathomable to me to not choose gliding when given the option. But wait, there's more! Not only do we have side alleys, but the game completes the exploration trifecta with, this is going to sound wild, jumping puzzles. Although many expeditions before yours have left helpful footholds and places to grapple hook onto, they're not everywhere. So instead, you'll see some suspiciously flat-looking columns and have whichever on-screen character you've chosen have to hoist themselves up and jump precisely to get to a hard-to-reach item. I don't fully know how I feel about this one, to be honest. It's fine, but it feels, dare I say, kind of unnecessary in a tacked-on way. So whilst I enjoy that Expedition 33 is absolutely crammed with RPG goodness, I will say sometimes it's so crammed it feels like it's overflowing, and this is one of those times. Oh no, more game for my game. Absolutely sinful, I know, but it's just an observation. Oh, and this could also be an extremely me situation, since I am known to have all the directional sense of a gerbil driving a magic 8-ball, but between dynamic diversions like the jumping puzzles and every encounter with an Art Deco toaster that I didn't fully plan on, I did find myself getting turned around quite a lot, and so I really would have liked my fragile attention span to have the aid of a mini-map, because of the amount of times I got in a fight and turned around and toddled off back the direction I came from. But again, this may be an extremely me problem. I am very special with my sense of direction. Otherwise, the helpful items hidden in nooks and crannies worked like a magic trick to make the areas feel worthy of exploration and not just like a straightforward tunnel. Speaking of maps, so another familiar format in RPGs I've played is the concept of a world map. As in one large expanse for your character to run around in, camp and save in, and it acts as a hub for traversal between zones. For Expedition 33, it actually took me a second to realize what I was seeing was a variant of this classic format because, well, the graphics are just so beautiful, and I was just a little put off at feeling suddenly kind of slow for no reason after nooming around the previous areas. That's when I saw that I actually had an on-screen map option appear. Oh goody, my poor directionless self said. It was at that moment that I scowled for the first time since opening the game. Because, I'm about to sound really rude here, but what the hell is this thing? It's bizarre how it looks like it belongs in a different game entirely. At best, I can maybe guess it's supposed to be some kind of tribute to Impressionism, which would be cute and thematic, but it's meant to be a map. It's meant to have a function. And this preview hasn't sold me on it. You can't at this stage highlight anything, and if you zoom in on a location, well, you can't really. You don't get any information. It's really just a static map with a cross on your main objective. Like, it's just a world map, I guess. I'm not heartbroken. I'm just a bit confused. Now let's talk about style and story. Don't be fooled by my crusty footage. I played this on an older PC and it struggled. I'll be playing the full release on PS5. The characters are charming enough with their French movie-style faces, and I have high hopes for the dynamics of the party. After disaster, our first two characters must face the choice between what is safe and what is right, and it's like the head versus heart kind of conflict. It's a promising enough conflict to start. Like, whilst what unites them is, of course, what wins out, it has a bit more spark to it, and a groundedness as they navigate a tragedy. Truly, with their dynamics, the game is very blessed to have such a capable, star-studded cast. It's an almost biblically grisly start to the game. It sets a very dark tone through a few key scenes, but it didn't linger voyeuristically on it after making its point, and I'm glad it didn't want to be a disaster movie more than it wanted to be a video game. Although, according to Variety, as published at the end of January, it does want to be a movie, though. Story Kitchen has actually picked up the rights to make a film adaptation before the game's even out. Wild! But jumping off from my last point, I'm glad they didn't work our dear voice actors to death speaking every single line of dialogue, and the side quests were left as simple text boxes, which I didn't have to feel too rude for skim reading crucial info and just skipping through audio. Like, is it too bratty of me to want to play my game and not just watch and listen to long cutscenes that make the sudden gameplay almost feel like an intrusion? I found Expedition 33 to be very precise with its use of its cutscenes, and there's plenty to be said for how gorgeous and mesmerizing the environments are, with consistent themes in style, gelled together by a soundtrack that is dreamy, atmospheric, majestic, and vocals heavy. Although, oh, she's got her critical hat on. Oh. So, the thing is, this is a preview of the game that clearly hopes to show off the gameplay first and foremost, so I'm not confident in what I have to say, and what I have to say is that the world building did strike me as feeling a little bit flimsy. For something this narrative heavy, I do have faith that we'll have plenty of front-loaded exposition with a rundown of why things are the way they are, but I feel that for something so inspired by the so-called Belle Epoque, and the way art, science, and magic mix in this world, I am hoping for something a bit more on the meaty side for lore, and that won't ultimately leave me with more questions than answers. Why do expeditions use pure magic on voice notes for us to find? Why can Lune float? Why? Was Expedition 69 a specific expedition for climbing?
Someone came here before and set up these handholds.
Probably Expedition 69, the Climbers Expedition.
That said, rule of cool is absolutely an acceptable answer, and I will absolutely not be waterboarding the team for an original RPG project about every singular silly detail that really can just be answered bluntly with, because it is a video game. For example, when I first saw the camp, I thought it would be all serious business. However, the gramophone with a track list, we're glamping, baby. Hopefully in future there's room for some toile de joie bean bags and a raclette for Gustave to dip his baguette in. One final reminder that this is a preview. Therefore, I cannot recommend or not recommend Clair Obscur Expedition 33 because it is not out yet. That would be unfair. However, I hope I've given you a decent look at the game and a balanced rundown of what to get excited for, because I do think we should be excited. This game honestly reinforces my positivity for the future of turn-based RPGs, and on its own merits, I'm really hoping gamers don't sleep on this one, because I'm cautiously optimistic it will stick the landing with its story and its exploration, and be worthy of the hype I know a lot of us have. Bye-bye! Don't forget to like, subscribe, and smash that bell button, and check out my previous review if you haven't. See you next time. Bye! Yeah, that's it. Good girl. You are so good.